Aside from a number of hot topics in D.C. this week, there was a lot of talk about immigration reform. I had the opportunity to speak with North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, who sits on the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee for Border Security and Immigration. He says his immigration framework is like nothing proposed yet. He believes it will accomplish an impossible feat, both bipartisan support and the president's stamp of approval. I want to start first and foremost. I had seen you on the record. You had said that you wanted to end 40 years of failure in Washington, and I wanted you to elaborate a little bit. Is that a failure of legislation? Is that a failure of enforcement? And how do you put a stop to that?
Well, I think it's all of the above. I believe that Ronald Reagan, who is a personal hero of mine, made a mistake when he allowed amnesty back in 1986. I think Congress, on a bipartisan basis, Republicans and Democrats have failed to lead in Congress. I think that the administrations have failed to enforce the laws that are on the books, and that's undermined the confidence of the American people that we can actually come up with a solution that protects the borders, protects the homeland, and protects American workers.
Okay, so this is your time. The Republicans have the majority. The Senate did pass legislation back in 2013. Why is 2017 different, and what is your proposal for bipartisanship support?
I think that the Gang of Eight bill started out with the best of intentions, but did a horrible job as they evolved it over time, and they reached a point to where they simply weren't going to get the support in the House. So it became the worst of all outcomes. You had both ends of the spectrum criticizing it for one thing or another. That's why I don't believe that comprehensive reform makes sense.
What are you bringing to the table, and how are you going to get support from both sides of the aisle?
As Speaker of the House, what I learned, if you don't get it right, that American businesses and American workers suffer. You can take a look at policies down in Alabama and Georgia that were devastating to their agriculture community. We made that instructive to the work that we did in North Carolina. And so I think it's more a matter of engaging the stakeholders and recognizing you will never satisfy the far extremes on the position at the left or the right. What we're trying to do is create something that gets 60 votes, that goes to the president's desk, that he will sign.
You have said on some of your top points on your framework, you said secure our borders first, allow states to help with local law enforcement. Does that look like a wall to you? How do you get states on board? And how do you accommodate all the different needs of different states?
Well, I think that I'm going to the border. If we have recess, I hope we don't. I want to be up here working. But if we're going on recess in 2 weeks, then I'm going to learn more about the situation on the border where public safety is a key issue and a concern. But the flip side of it is if we don't do it right, the economic impact will harm the people that first we have to protect. So it's more a matter of understanding that. I can tell you there's no better person to help us with that than General Kelly in Homeland Security. He was Southern Command, the head of Southern Command. He understands the complexities down on our border, the Mexican southern border, and I'm confident we can come up with something that's not necessarily one single structure across our border. It's a series of things that we can do that, in his opinion, can secure the border.
My last question is, people see the word deportations and they get nervous. How are you going to rectify that? Who are you going to deport, and when does that begin?
Well, what I think we do is start by deporting dangerous criminals that are among us. And I don't think it's a majority of the illegally present population, but when we're talking about felons and people who are guilty of violent crimes, drug crimes, we should absolutely, unapologetically deport them and communicate to the nations of origin that there will be a consequence if we continue to have their problem find itself in the United States. That's a great first step while we're also securing the border. Then we get to the other things that we need to get done.
Okay, my final question, are you going to have support from the president from your future legislation?
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to tell everybody. You know, Congress, all you really need to know is 5th grade math to be successful in Congress. You have to have 60 votes. You have to have 67 votes if you think you're going to do something that the president would oppose. I can't imagine that we would do anything that isn't consistent with the president's vision of where we go ultimately to solve the problem. And I have a lot of confidence he may be the first president to actually solve a lot of the problem.
Well, Senator, we wish you the best of luck with both your colleagues on both sides of the aisle and, of course, the president. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.